Welcome, everyone. This is David Morgan of the Morgan Report, and this is probably the last podcast I am going to do in 2022. And I thought, what better to do than to talk to Wall Street Silver and get the story and then the backstory. So welcome, Jim. Welcome, Ivan. Thank you for coming on board with me. Quite a ride in silver for this year. I mean, basically started, I think it was around 22, hit 26 two times, double top, came down. I said 1850 at the bottom and had to prove me wrong. I think it went to 18. And now we're back up around 24. So silver's actually up over the year. And we are seeing it really outperform a lot of the other asset classes because they're all down: real estate, stock market, the bond market. But I want to turn it over to you. So what, Jim, I'll go to you first. What does the main takeaways for Wall Street Silver in 2022? I want to know how much you grew and what kind of changes you've seen over the last year.
I don't know. On Reddit, I think we've probably grown about 100,000. I think we were in the low 100, 120, 130,000 range at the beginning of 2022. And now we're at 235,000 on Reddit. So we added about another 100,000 people on the Reddit community. Our YouTube channel is now up to 65,000 subscribers. And I think that's probably grown 30,000 or so over the course of the year. I think we were 30 or 40,000 at the beginning of the year. And Twitter's
really taken off.
Twitter's really exploded. I had on my a spreadsheet that we reached 100,000 followers on Twitter back on April 19th. And as of, right now, the end of 2022, we're at 591,000. So just since April, less than 8 months, we've added, almost 500,000 followers on Twitter, including Mr. Elon Musk is now following that was about a week and a half ago. Elon started following and replying a lot. And that was the most surprising thing that happened in December is Elon replies to our account on Twitter a lot. Probably
That's interesting.
In fact, more than any, I can't see any. If you go look at all the accounts he replies to, we're probably the most replied to account of any account on Twitter that Elon talks to.
Why do you think that? Why do you think that is, Jim?
I have no idea. I mean, I haven't sent him any private messages. I don't talk to him privately or anything. I don't want to, I'm sure he gets annoyed by enough people poking at him all day long. So
hey, buy this 100-ounce bar.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But I mean,
send him a 100-ounce bar.
I think it's great that he just has brought so much attention to our account, and it's dramatically boosted the growth of the account in the past few weeks. Just every time he replies to something that we tweet, it adds 5 million impressions, right? 5 million views, just easily to everything he replies to. So it's just welcome attention. The replies are, he's replied to stuff about the World Economic Forum, like if we do something critical about Klaus Schwab,
right?
He likes that. I think he agrees with that concept. He's replied to funny memes where we're just joking around or being sarcastic. He's replied to tweets where we've criticized the Fed and current Fed policy, probably because he agrees with, the criticism of what I see Elon doing. His strategy on Twitter is there's certain things that he probably can't say himself.
Right.
It would create a news article or a news cycle if he were to tweet that concept himself. What I think he's doing is he finds Twitter accounts that he agrees with, and he replies to them. And it might just be, sometimes it's just an exclamation point, like, "Oh my God." He's not, but it's like very strategic. He's like just highlighting things that he agrees with, but he doesn't say he agrees with it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
To avoid perhaps a news cycle being about something he tweeted. That's what I suspect is going on.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. And I retweeted that. I was quite impressed that he was following Wall Street Silver. I had to throw my 2 cents because I wrote out open letter to Elon Musk probably more than a year ago. But back to you, Ivan. So Jim gave us a great rundown. What do you think is the demographic, generally speaking, on Wall Street silver?
You're starting to see like age wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're starting to see like a lot more younger crowd on Reddit. Every single day I'm seeing posts of 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds coming out, new stackers. But for, like the overall demographic, I'd say 30 to 40. That's what I'm seeing is from the age of 30 to 40. That's like the main whole group of Wall Street silver. But every single day I'm seeing new posts, silver stackers that are literally 20 years old or 19, 18 years old, and they're asking on the discussion topics, where do I get silver, how do I find silver, and there's always good people from Wall Street Silver going into the comments and sending them links to either go to a local coin shop or go to their bullion dealer, and then educating them on silver. But yeah, 30 to 40, but you're starting to see a huge younger crowd come into Wall Street Silver.
I want to do this as a wrap up of 2022, as I stated, but I want to go further back. So, Ivan, tell me, how this really began. I mean, I've got a concept, but I really heard it between you and Jim. So, who started it? How did you guys connect? And what were your expectations at the time?
I saw Jim's post on Wall Street Bets, and then first I was like, because I've always been interested in silver since 2015. So way before Wall Street Silver. That was when I first started stacking silver. But then I seen Wall Street Bets and GameStop phenomena blow up, and I seen Jim's post, and it was about 2 years ago. He posted it on Wall Street Bets, and then I started posting on Wall Street Bets about silver, like in the comments, and because I love silver. But then Ivan got banned. I got banned, and then right after that, I started a community called Wall Street Bets Silver, but it immediately Reddit took it down. That was like the January 28, 2021. It was called Wall Street Bets Silver. A horrible name. And then Reddit took it down, and I was so mad that they took it down that I started Wall Street Silver like the day after. And my dad was watching hockey. He was watching the Oilers play on NHL, and I just started inviting people, and it just blew up after that. It took off on Reddit because everyone from GameStop that was being banned from talking about silver, they just came over.
You know what it was? We were a lot of people on Wall Street Bets, the GameStop thing was already done, right? That thing ran up to $400 a share and was already peaking and coming back down.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the Wall Street Bets community, they were like, don't talk about anything else. Wall Street, GameStop and AMC only. That's it.
Yeah.
And anyone else who talks about anything else is a hedge fund.
Yeah. Remember that
troll who's trying to just, it was very paranoid. A lot of paranoia was on Wall Street Bets at the time in January of 2021. But, there was a lot of talk of, all right, GameStop's over. Let's look for other stocks that have a huge short interest that could also potentially be short squeezes. And one of the ones that was popping up in like the top 5 because there was a website that tracked which stock tickers were the most discussed on Wall Street Bets. And one of the ones in the top 5 was First Majestic.
Interesting.
AG. And because it was showing up on all the lists as having a huge short interest. It was like 40% of the stock was short in January of 2021. And so that one started trending First Majestic for a short squeeze on Wall Street Bets. And it worked. I think the stock went from in the low teens up to 22 or 24 briefly.
Wow.
On a short squeeze. And Keith Newmeyer thanked me later because he said you guys cleaned out all the shorts, because now it's well below 5% of the float is now short on First Majestic. That squeeze taking it up into the 20s, crushed them, and they haven't been back since. Okay, but when First Majestic started doing the short squeeze, then all of a sudden, it took off with, let's, silver. It's a lot tougher to do silver. There's so much manipulation. It was possible to do a short squeeze on First Majestic because First Majestic itself is probably more vulnerable to a short squeeze type of strategy versus a commodity like silver, which is tightly, of course, controlled and manipulated. So anyways, that's what was going on. Was it wasn't necessarily silver that got everyone banned. It was talking about a short squeeze on First Majestic stock, which is, of course, symbol AG, also the periodic table symbol for the silver. Great stock ticker symbol for
Oh yeah,
silver.
absolutely.
Yeah, AG.
So Ivan, when you guys started, did you have like a vision of where this would go, or did you have a purpose, or you just were tired of what was going on and broke off and said, hey, we're starting a thing and see what happens?
Me personally, like my personal, like right when I was inviting people, I just wanted a place for silver stackers and everyone to stick together. And I was at a point where I just because I love silver so much since 2015, but there was no place where you could go. Like there was YouTube channels and there was places you could go, but what
I mean,
right when you
there was a subreddit called Silver Bugs
yeah,
also on
exactly.
Reddit, but that one is so tightly controlled and they don't allow any real discussion other than sharing pictures of, pieces of silver. It literally everything else is banned. If you were to
Right.
mention any sort of stock or any
Memes or
anything
anything.
even financial, if you were to talk about Fed policy, if you wanted to have a discussion on Reddit about Fed policy that's affecting silver and gold, you couldn't do that on Silver Bugs because they don't allow that type of thing.
And I think that's why Wall Street Silver is so successful, because you have discussion topics, due diligence. You can talk about miners. You can talk about physical silver. Post your silver stack.
We're essentially had a much more relaxed policy about the range of topics affecting silver. Like we're fine with memes. We're fine with funny videos. We're fine with any news that's related to and affecting silver prices. We're fine with, post your pictures of silver. If you want to talk about mining stocks, that's totally fair game. I think that's why we're so much more successful than Silver Bugs on Reddit, is simply because we had a much wider range of free. There's very little censorship on Wall Street Silver on the Reddit community, whereas there's a lot of censorship on other subreddits.
Right.
And sometimes Ivan and I and the other there's like a group of 10 moderators. But sometimes we get criticized for allowing too much, right? Sometimes we allow too much politics or too much off topic. But we sort of, and we used to remove anything off topic, but then in the past year, like the first year, we tried to stay much more on topic.
Right.
But in 2022, the community just seemed to want more free speech. So now it's like, all right, unless you're really, talking some, just horrible
hate speech. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, it really has to cross a line, and I'm not sure exactly where that line is, but it really has to be bad for us to remove something. We generally tend to lean to, all right, as long as no one's pissed off, it's fine. We're not going to remove it. And I don't know,
Jim, you alluded to it earlier about silver being different on a short squeeze than a stock, and that was one of my main criticisms at the beginning. Was I said, oh, these younger people, they don't have the conviction it takes to ride through the ups and downs of the silver market. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Did you have any thoughts on it? I want to go to Ivan next, but at the beginning that it would gain this kind of momentum, and that most of these people are really committed.
Well, the classic historical example is the Hunt brothers in the late 70s. And what they did back then was just a couple of wealthy oil guys from Texas, but they used a lot of margin, right? They were borrowing a lot of money to do what they did, to buy a lot of silver. And I think they were also doing a lot of game. They were trying to use the futures market also at the same time. And so the way they went about it left them vulnerable to the Comex changing the rules and other third parties going at their lenders and cutting off their credit lines, things like that. Whereas what we're doing right now, having millions of people, because it's more than just the people on Reddit. There's a lot of people who do this also who are just not on Reddit, right? So I think our numbers are in the millions. of people who are stacking physical silver now. So by recruiting a new generation of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are now committed to buying physical silver and, sinking it in their boat in the lake behind their house or whatever, we're taking the physical off the market, and it's probably disappearing for a decade or a generation. A lot of that silver is just not going to be available at anything less than $100 an ounce or way higher. I mean, some people are just waiting for the next currency. Like the physical silver that I own, I don't think it's available for any price in US dollars. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the next currency. I want to own something that will have value in the event of a currency collapse.
Right.
If I don't need it, if I never use it, then I'm just going to give it to my kids. I really have no plans to ever sell my silver at any price. So, I mean,
yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who are sort of in the same mentality. Not everyone has their own reasons, of course, but that's where I think a lot of people are in their heads for their silver, stacks. There's just really no price in US dollars, at least the current US dollar, that I'll give it up. If in the next currency they go back to a gold standard, where then you have confidence in stable value in the next currency after this current one fails, well, then maybe all right, there's no point in owning silver anymore. We're back on a gold standard. But I don't know that scenario where I would sell, because it has not presented itself in any way, shape, or form right now. And I think that's where a lot of people are, and the difference between what the Hunt brothers did in the 70s versus what we're doing now.
Ivan, your comment on that. Did you have a gut feeling from the beginning that there was conviction behind this Wall Street Silver, I'll call it movement or platform?
Oh yeah. I had full faith the first day it started that because when I started seeing it grow 1,000 people a day on Reddit first, just in the beginning, that was like a clear indicator to me that okay, we will get this to 100,000, boom, reach that goal, and then we'll get that to 200,000. But I always had, like, Jim absolutely nailed it with what he said about the Hunt brothers compared to what we're doing. But I have full faith, David, from the beginning, right when I was inviting people, that we would grow to at least 100, 200,000. But now obviously it's taken a life of its own. So that's awesome.
Well, I don't think there's many of us commentators, thought leaders, whatever you want to call the silver community, that doesn't refer back to you guys. I mean, I don't think there's very few tweets I don't tag you. I mean, some I don't because they're too political or they're just jokes or something. But and that helps me, I think, when I tag someone as powerful as Wall Street Silver. Doesn't that have some effect on my Twitter following, or does it?
Does it, Jim?
No, you just tagging us. No, it doesn't add any impressions or anything.
Okay.
Hashtags work, because some people search for tweets based on a hashtag.
Right.
So, in some of my tweets, I'll hashtag gold or hashtag silver or hashtag, World Economic Forum or hashtag Klaus Schwab. Those things that are trending, if you add a hashtag to your tweet. Sometimes the goal is to have people who are not following you have a bigger chance of seeing your tweet. And hashtags are the best way to do that.
Yeah. Well, this is, I think, an important question to me. So you guys have started, you kicked off basically a movement. We've got a lot more people educated. And even through the ups and downs, most people stayed real loyal to, the silver theme.
Oh yeah, that's loyalty to silver is
it's incredible.
Those people are they'll never quit. They don't care what happens to the price. They're still gonna keep buying.
They'll be so happy when it goes to $17. They'll just buy more.
So Ivan, you first. Where do you see it going over the next year? Where do you see it in 2023? You think it's going to double? You think it's going to
like silver prices?
Yeah. What do you think Wall Street Silver is going to look like a year from now?
It all for sure depends on, like, now I'm seeing the Comex being drained for the past year and all that data coming out. So I think everyone's just keeping a very close eye on Ditch the Deep State on Wall Street Silver on the Reddit page, and they're watching his due diligence and making sure that just to watch the Comex numbers. And the more it drains, I believe we're going to get closer to something. But you've said this before, David. I think you've said this before. We won't see true price discovery until the manipulation ends.
That's right.
Yeah, like we can talk about silver prices and like and go over absolutely everything, but when silver and the commodities are the most manipulated, it's the most manipulated thing ever. So you know it, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
know it. It's manipulated.
Right.
But if you're talking projections, it seems like based on the rate of decline of registered silver in the Comex. I mean, when we first started this in January of 2021, there was 150 million ounces in registered. And I think right now there's like 34 or 35 million. So it's down by over 2/3, closer to 70+% down in terms of how much silver is available to be taken off of. And LBMA is also down a significant amount. We'll see. I mean, at some point it breaks, right? At some point, the Comex doesn't have enough silver in the vault. You know, what's more interesting is platinum right now. This month,
Right.
Platinum has been drained out of the Comex, right?
Right.
Platinum, the amount of metal, and that's partially because Russia's no longer Russia's a big producer of platinum along with South Africa. So there's not as much platinum coming out of Russia. So,
right,
catalytic converters need platinum and palladium. So auto manufacturers are taking it off the exchanges because they can't get it from Russia. All right. So what happens to the platinum market when the exchange no longer has any platinum in the vaults? Well, there's more contracts still open. The contract that's closing right now at the end of December, there's more contracts still open than there is platinum in the vaults.
Yep.
So if they all stand for delivery and don't close out their contracts for cash, I mean, that's never happened before, right?
It
Or it's
probably
been a long
happened in palladium back in the early 2000s, but I'm not
so
certain.
we'll find out whether is the demand for platinum that short, that tight,
right,
where the auto manufacturers who are probably taking delivery, through their banks or through their brokers, taking delivery of those platinum ounces. Are they doing it, or do they have to? Do they just have to take it off the exchange because they have no other option to get enough platinum to build their catalytic converters? What happens to the physical price? We may have the future of the silver market. We may see an example of in the platinum markets in January, February.
right.
Because I don't think anyone's expecting the war in Ukraine to end in the next few months. So the supply problem of platinum from lack of enough platinum from Russia, I don't think and even after the war ends in Ukraine, I don't know if we're going right back to start taking all the commodities again on day one. No, it's going to be a long time before they gradually start removing all these restrictions on commodity supplies. And Russia is just so massive and so undeveloped. I mean, so Russia has more commodity reserves than any other country on the planet. And here we are, we've shut ourselves off from that supply line. Oil is another good example. Russia produces almost 10 million barrels a day. Well, on the globe, the entire globe produces 100 million barrels a day. And we're just going to get rid of and not take, you can't just say, all right, we're not going to take those 10 million anymore. That's not how it works. I mean, the globe needs it, right? I don't know.
And I'll give you, David, I'll give you my projection for 2023. The second silver hits $30, I'll eat a crayon. So second it passes $30, I'll eat a crayon. Everybody knows
luckily
that.
there are edible crayons out there.
Yeah, they're edible. Yeah, there are edible crayons.
And it's a silver crayon. You said you did, right?
I have one already. I'm just waiting.
Okay. Cool. We're looking forward to that.
I do think we're gonna get through 30 this year.
Could happen.
And I mean, just the demand, the supply and demand numbers just argue that, and the Fed's policies. As soon as the Fed pauses, and I think the Fed has to go back to lower rates. I don't think the economy or the U.S. government can afford higher rates at 4 or 5% long term. I think it's just inevitable. They're going to pause and eventually lower rates. So what happens? That's when gold and silver take off. And I don't know when that's going to be, but that's probably the catalyst that a lot of people are waiting for. And what happens when silver gets to 30? I mean, that's such a huge number. A lot of people speculate if it gets through 30, it's going straight to 40.
There's very little resistance above 30, 32, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think 50 is the next big number. You know, we
I
might have
think it'll stall at 50. And
yeah, we might have a lot of consolidation between 40 and 50 for a period of time. I mean, that period of time may be 2 or 3 years. I don't know. But I think by the end of this decade, if you look at it, the global mine supply is in decline. It's not increasing. It's at 800 million, down from 900 million back in 2015. So global mine production is in decline. Meanwhile, solar, electric vehicle, electronics, demand from all those industrial consumers of silver is steadily increasing. So at some point, you know, this is third grade math and it just doesn't work anymore, right? Global mine supply is in decline. Silver, above ground silver in the vaults is in decline. Industrial demand is increasing. At some point, someone doesn't get their silver, right?
Right.
At some point. And it's not going to be Apple. Apple's got the margins for their iPhones. They're going to get their silver.
Yeah.
So who's not going to get their silver?
Right.
Investors.
And probably the mints, probably the U.S. mint is not going to get their silver.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about that story. So Ivan, back to you. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Is there anything in your final thoughts you'd like to summarize or project out for the new year or anything? And again, kudos to both of you. It's been nice to build a relationship with you, and also what you're doing for the community is probably above and beyond anything that's happened before the establishment of Wall Street Silver. So
yeah, I just
congratulate you both.
Thank you. I genuinely appreciate you, David, because you from the very beginning, you gave us a YouTube interview. You did everything from us right from the beginning. So we appreciate you. And of course, for 2023, I think it'll be I genuinely believe and have faith it'll be a really strong year for growth for Wall Street Silver. And I just appreciate everyone. Jim, what do you want to say?
I think the same thing. We're gonna keep growing the audience. We're 235,000 on Reddit now. We'll probably hit 350 or 400,000 on Reddit. If silver gets hot, let's say if silver gets above 30, then I think it'll probably enter mainstream media news more. I
agree. Yeah.
And that, who knows, that could just take it all to another level. Maybe we jump to 500,000 on Reddit. Maybe we jump an extra million people on Twitter. Maybe the YouTube account maybe goes to, 100,000 or 200,000 a lot faster than it would have otherwise.
Right.
Back when all the cannabis stocks got real hot, all those cannabis YouTube channels went from 50,000 to 500,000. So you may see Chris Marcus, Arcadia Economics take off to, 300, 400, 500,000, or you may see all the silver.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of silver channels out there, not just ours. Right. So you may see all of them become like the cannabis YouTube channels were, or all the Bitcoin YouTube channels all jumped up to several 100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
All those Bitcoin, Twitter guys, the influencers, not necessarily the Bitcoin people. Those guys, a lot of them kept their credibility. But the crypto, and I separate Bitcoin from crypto, right? Because, Bitcoin's sort of not controlled by anyone, whereas a lot of those crypto coins from FTX and the other scammers or more Ponzi schemes, centrally controlled.
Right.
A lot of those people on YouTube and Twitter have lost all their credibility. Raul Paul, Anthony Pompliano, these guys who were just outright running scams on their own social media, pumping, altcoins, shit coins. What they were doing, they've lost a lot of credibility. And Ivan and I have sort of learned from watching that is to dial, what the takeaway is, I don't want to become the next Michael Saylor where I'm saying these crazy things about, hey, mortgage your house to buy silver, sell your business to buy silver. Like he's saying, Bitcoin.
I'm just kidding.
No, I'm not.
kidding.
I don't want those videos to be out there.
I know. I'm just kidding.
That come back and haunt us, like because we said things that were just too wild and unrealistic.
Right.
You'll never hear us saying, you know, silver's going to 1,000, or you know, although it is. But,
it is. Everyone knows.
Well, no, it's not because silver's going to 1,000. It's because the dollar.
Right, it's going to zero.
Goes down, so you no longer measure the commodity in dollar terms.
Right.
So then everything, and it's then in that scenario, it's not just silver that goes. Every hard commodity goes. The price of your house goes through the roof in dollar terms.
Right.
Copper goes to infinity because at some point, the debt Ponzi scheme of what we're doing with the Fed, you know, has real implications to the currency.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's definitely within our lifetimes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know when, maybe it's this decade, maybe it's, you know, the next decade. I do definitely think it happens in our lifetimes. And that's why gold stacking exists. That's why silver stacking exists. That's why inflation hedges exist, you know, because that is a real thing and people have to plan for it.
Great. Well, thank you both for your time. I will sign off with how I sign off the Morgan Report, wishing you health above wealth. When you've got your health, you're as rich as any king. And just a happy, great, prosperous new year to everyone listening. David Morgan of the Morgan Report, signing out.